Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Tasty Trails Travel Pod. Today we are traveling to Australia to learn from an awesome guest. I have Auntie Dale Chapman, an Aboriginal chef, educator, and founder of My Dilly Bag. For more than 25 years, Auntie Dale has been at the heart of Australia's bush food movement, helping people reconnect with Indigenous ingredients, sustainable practices, and the cultural stories that come with every bite. In our conversation, Auntie Dale shares her journey from childhood meals cooked around the fire to pioneering the use of native Australian ingredients in modern cuisine. We talk about ancient food knowledge passed down through generations, the healing power of plants like lemon myrtle and wattleseed, and a bunch of other things that I haven't heard of, and why connecting to land is central to both culture and wellness. You'll hear how Aboriginal food traditions are not just recipes, they're living links to history, community, and sustainability, and why it is so important to have all of these conversations to continue to pass along the wealth and abundance of knowledge that the Aboriginals and First Nations peoples have everywhere. I'm so excited for you guys to hear. So yeah, tuck in and let's go. Hey, Auntie Dale, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Can you tell everybody a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and what you do?
Sure. I'm Dale, and I come from Australia. So we are, as an Aboriginal person, I come from country called Yarrallarray and Guamu. So they're my grandparents' side. I'm a chef by trade, but I've been involved in the bush food industry now for 25 years, which is Australian sovereign foods. And we develop a range of native products like jams, chutneys, sauces, oils, pastas, all sorts of things that we can modernise in, the new century that we're in, 21. So it's all... I love doing it. It's my birthright, and I like to empower other people, whether they are my people, Indigenous people, or non-Indigenous people, to embrace Aboriginal practice and culture through food.
That's amazing. And as far as modernizing all the dishes and stuff, are there a lot of changes that you have to make, or kind of what does that involve?
Well, I guess if you're a foodie, like if you're a person who cooks a lot and understands flavours and texture and methods of cookery, it's really quite easy. Our native ingredients over here infuse and they go into flour to make, breads and biscuits and fudges, and they just work. When I first started using them in a modern context, because as a child I would eat them all the time around the fire with my parents and kids and everything and all the family. But when we had to start modernising it to make the rest of, I guess, the world understand and enjoy it like we did, you had to make it into a jam. If you've got a lovely lily pilly, for example, all you're going to do is treat it like you would a strawberry and make strawberry jam. So it's very important just to, I think it's exploring it. It's about being adventurous with native ingredients and understanding that they're quite strong. So sometimes the best information I can give people is that less is more.
Yeah, and I think that's a great tip just overall. So there are people that listen to this podcast from all around the world. And so I know this is a very kind of broad and general question, but can you maybe give a little bit of an introduction about the Aboriginal people?
Sure. So, Aboriginal people have lived on this continent. We are the first peoples of Australia. I guess the best way to describe it is that we're over 65,000 years old. Create our ancestors that have come before us and make sure that those stories and that connection to country, to the waterways, to the spirit, are upheld through the journey that we go on now in future modern times. So it's very important that we connect with country and that we continue the cultural practices that have been here for millennia.
And are there, like in the United States, there's a ton of different tribes depending on which part of the country. Is that also the same in Australia as well? Different
Yeah,
tribes, different
that map
traditions and
behind me, Katie, is an Aboriginal map done in the 1800s, and it's
oh wow.
full of 700. It's like 750 different tribal groups there,
Oh,
and
okay. Yeah. Wow.
they're all connected. But you can't just land on someone's country, like out on my country and Yaliyah country, and think that you're going to have the same language as someone who's come from Northern Territory or Cairns or somewhere. There are similarities because, of course, we had to speak and trade, but they are totally different community groups or cultural tribal groups.
And I imagine because of all of that, there's also different native ingredients depending on where you are in the country.
Yeah, it's very, very seasonal here. So we can have 6 and 8 seasons in Australia. And when those foods are on, that's when you had to go out and harvest them and dry them out and keep them for longer. And even today, it's still the same. We have to then go and harvest as much as we can of that product so that it's funny, Western people want to have a particular product all year round, and that's difficult. So, what we've had to do here in Australia is go, okay, well, now we'll freeze dry it, we'll dehydrate it, we'll turn it into a preserve so that there is a longevity of that particular herb or spice or fruit. Yeah.
So, what are the 6 or 8 seasons that are different, the additional ones in addition to the spring, summer, fall,
Well,
winter?
we have those four, but then you go into wet seasons. So far north
Um,
Queensland and where there's cyclonic areas, that's the wet season. So a totally different plant will emerge and a totally different animals will come out, you
oh,
know.
wow.
Um, then you've got the very dry and arid seasons, which is totally different again. And then there's that in between those two spaces. So where it's starting to dry and then it's starting to get less wet. So there's a bit in between those ones, and that's why we say 6 to 8 seasons here.
And which season is your favorite for food?
It's an interesting one because in winter you're getting all those beautiful citrus fruits. So you're getting lemon aspen, you're getting finger limes, you're getting all those things which naturally are full of all those medicines and minerals and vitamins that you need when you're sick. Then the summer, we're getting all these beautiful fruits are coming on, sweet berries. We've always got certain trees like lemon myrtle and anise myrtle, which is great because those plants actually are a well-being plant. They're an all-rounder, so it helps with the immune system. It helps with blood purification and a lot of
What
things.
is it?
Oh, it's a tree. It's a big
Hmm.
tree, a lemon myrtle tree. It's called a Backhausia citrodora, and the lemon myrtle has this beautiful leaf about this big. It's glossy and green, and when you can do lots of things with it. In the old days, Aboriginal people, when they had toothache, they would take the leaf and rub it on the gum, and it actually numbs it, so it helps to relieve pain.
Wow.
You can put it in hot water and have a beautiful, calming, and sedative cup of tea. It's also one that we use just to connect a bit, to where you are. So you can crush it and inhale like that, and it's just beautiful. Yeah. Goes in, you
Wow.
can put it in anything, honestly. I pop it in pasta. We've even got a confectionery, which is a lemon myrtle and coconut popcorn. We've put it
And it
in
has a
oil.
specific flavor as well, or just kind of a
Yeah.
leafy flavor?
Yeah, so the best flavour I think that you could sort of relate it to would be it's definitely lemon and lime oil, but it has this sweet kind of citrus burst to it.
Mm.
Um, Lemongrass, I guess, is another way you could look at. So I use it in lots of Thai food. So if I'm
Oh,
I'm
wow.
doing a recipe like a nice laksa or something like that, I'll put some leaves in and I get this lemon myrtle flavour. Yeah, it's beautiful.
That's really lovely. And like you're getting the flavor, but you're also getting all the extra benefits that come with it.
Yeah,
And just that knowledge to have is incredible.
yeah. It's one of the most sought after ingredients in Australia because it's
Is it?
so it's so gentle and calming, and it does do that. It does help you to relax. And, when I go into schools and I teach kids about it, they just don't stop talking. They've got that leaf and they're crushing it and sniffing it. So it's really lovely. And I've had years and years later, because I've been doing it a long time, and I'll see someone or they'll see me, the bush tucker lady, and they'll come flying over and say, you introduced me to lemon myrtle, and I'm introducing my kids to it. And that's
Wow.
that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's about passing on that knowledge, sharing it into the future generations.
Yeah, and so you're doing that, going to schools and things like that, and speaking to people?
Yeah, so we go into early childhood education. So we're looking with 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds. And I think that for me, that's where it really begins. If we need to invest in our little people, we need to start we call them jarjums over here. So the jarjums need to understand where they live in Australia and what the local Aboriginal groups are, what the food is, and I notice over here the early childhood education system is really embracing that, because if we can educate and inform those young minds early, I truly believe that in years to come we're going to have a much kinder nation. And to me, that's what I think what we do in Bush Foods, Australian Sovereign Foods, is all about, really.
Oh, I love that mission, and I totally agree with you. Just starting young, and also for people to really understand the roots of where they come from. I mean, I think everybody is interested in that, and there's family history and stuff, personal stuff, but to really know like where you live and to understand the history and the truth of like all the things that happened, good and bad, and all
Yes,
the knowledge that there is to be passed along. Like to lose that would be so sad, and
it would.
that's such an incredible mission, and I think it's really cool to hear that it's being so well received. I would love to see something like that really take off in the US as well. That's really, really cool. What are some of the most important products and food or like dishes? Are there specific dishes that are either your favorites or crowd pleasers or the most popular or?
Yeah, well, when we were kids, it was about sitting around the fire and making damper and johnny cakes and things and cooking them on the coals. That was when we were kids, because I think food brings you together and opens up and creates conversation. And that's why I think it's very important that instead of going and sitting on the lounge with your takeaway meal and looking at the screen, we all need to get around the table a lot more, or around the fire, and start enjoying one another's company a lot more. But with My Dilly Bag, we create and honour, I think, our culture and ingredients through using native spices, making bush teas, developing oils. It's about wellness, and these ingredients like wattleseed and lemon myrtle, bush tomatoes, pepperberry, all of these things that we can get across every state and territory in Australia is exactly that. It's all about food is medicine, as we've heard it say so many times. And they are more than just ingredients for me, Katie. They carry stories, their connection to country, they promote health and well-being. And we get to, when we're eating all these beautiful foods, it's in our DNA. So we get to reflect on our culture, and we must look at, when I develop a product, whether it's a spice blend or a jam or, a sauce or something, we have to look at the sustainability of those fruits and grains that we've got.
Mhm.
So I tend to look at, how are we going to have a supply chain for the future? Is this something that we need to look at right now? So I know over here bush tomatoes from the Northern Territory are very rare to get sometimes, because there's not enough people out picking them. The pepperberry, which comes from Tasmania, which is that little island right down
Mhm.
the bottom, Tasmania, they have some beautiful pepper there. But how are we going to sustain that for future generations when the rest of the world is actually loving what we do here and what we've got? But we've got to be able to create a sustainability and continued connection to country through those stories of what our elders have given us. But someone will bring me a lovely new fruit or something, and my mind goes crazy because I think, oh, I can do this and I can do that with it. And sometimes that's why products come out as a limited product because there's not enough of that product. Yeah.
How long does it take you to do the research into, and perhaps it varies by product, but I don't know, in general, is there like a time period that it takes to be researching this and, like you said, the supply chains and
Yeah.
future predictions and things like that?
Well, I think over 25 years of being in this industry and a pioneer in this space, I feel that I have really good relationships with growers. So we have Indigenous growers and non-Indigenous farmers. So we have to, because there is limited and there, when I first started, honestly, it was a very, very small industry. It still is in comparison to lots of others. But, Aboriginal Australia only makes up 3% of the bush food industry. And that is mainly in harvesting, growing it on country, harvesting it, giving it out. For me, I grow it, not everywhere, but I grow certain plums and things, and then I can manufacture it and produce it into various other things right through. So I go from the
Oh,
grow
wow.
all the way through to the consumer model.
Wow.
But in some places, our people are just stuck in growing it and harvesting it, and they don't actually get to value add a product. So yeah, I think it's important that we understand that chain, the supply chain.
Yeah. And I mean, I also think that's like the detail that goes into knowing all that stuff, I think also probably comes from being so connected to the ingredient as a whole that you are
Yeah,
so connected to the whole journey that it
yeah,
takes. And I think that's really special because
yeah,
there's, in commercialized productions, people are kind of only thinking about the little tiny piece that they contribute to. And then you can taste it and feel it as a whole when the product as a whole is thought about
yeah,
as a whole thing, I think, at
yeah.
least. So I think
And it
that's,
can take, that journey can take quite a lot to get it on a shelf because there are so many steps and laws here in Australia to get it to the shelf. So, first of all, we have to get it from the grower. It's then put, and let's say it's over in South Australia, for example, like down here, then it's got to get picked, then it's got to get packed, then it's got to go onto a refrigerated truck, then it's got to travel all the way across Australia, way over here to me, And then when I get it, I've then got to store it. Then I've got to look at, in the meantime, I've developed a recipe, let's say, and work with that product. Then we've got to arrange for it to go get manufactured. So once that happens, and that can, all of that involves packaging, labeling, logistics, etc., and graphic artists because you've got to design that label.
totally, yeah.
So from the moment you have a conception of something, it might take 3 or 4 months or longer to get that product onto the shelf. Yeah.
Wow. And also I think people underestimate the size of Australia. I think on maps it is like shrunk down a bit. I mean, Australia is huge. And it's funny because I feel like all the food that you've mentioned thus
Yes.
far is food that I like I've like never heard of before. And A, I love that. B, is that do Australians as a whole, are they aware of these products and those, not like the products that you make, but like the original like ingredient, is that's kind of, those are very well known all over the continent and stuff.
Yes. Yeah, it's interesting. I have a little shop on the Sunshine Coast and we've been here 5 years and people often come in and there's a few different consumers you've got out there. You've got that one that really wants to grow the plant. How do I get the plant? Where do I get it from? What can I do with it after that? They want to put it in their gardens. They want to put it around their spaces and enjoy native ingredients. Then you've got the one that wants to come in and just simply buy the herb and spice already there and then take a recipe and make something. And then you've got that person who doesn't want to make a jam. They just want to open the jar and spread it on their toast, you know. So it's about meeting the client's needs along the way. But yeah, I find that more and more people are really embracing Australian native product because look, those plants and things, they're endemic to this country. They're the thing that held the soil together. People take our seed, unfortunately, and grow plants in other parts of the country, other parts of the world. The problem is that they will never have the nutrition and the connection to the storyline in the country, to the traditional owners that they would have maybe, you know, growing another part of the world. It's not going to happen. And it has been tested, like we have tested different things that grow over in Israel or even in California. I know California grows finger limes. Now,
Oh, okay.
finger limes are endemic to this space where I come from. The little citrus pearls, you know, they're beautiful, but the flavours are not the same, and the minerals and vitamins that are in them are not the same because Australia has a different soil, you know.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And when we
Yeah.
take something, when we're taking, like, I often, people say to me, oh, the bush tomato from the Northern Territory, we should grow it over here. And I said, well, one, it's not going to take because the climatic conditions are different. But I also say to them, why are you wanting to take away the economic future of that Aboriginal community? You know, our land, our language, our traditions, everything has been taken from Aboriginal people in Australia. And I feel now there's a tiny shift, it's a small shift, but more and more people are trying to embrace Aboriginal Australia now. And through education, you know, I think that's a really good way for it to happen. And even the horticulturists and land cares and places like that now are embracing it, what we do, you know, and connecting it back and understanding that these stories that we tell are real stories, you know, they're real connection to what's happening to that particular plant and the seasons that it grows in.
Yeah, absolutely. And can we talk about a few different, like just, I mean, I know there's going to be a ton, but a few of the different ingredients, maybe some
Yeah.
of the ones that you mentioned that, yeah, like that I definitely don't know, or that you think that
Yeah.
other people might not know as much about. It's so interesting to hear about just foods that I've like never, ever heard of.
Yeah. And the thing is that like it could be a little fruit this big, you know, big as my nail, and it has so much vibrance in it, you know. It has so much good energy and vitamins and things to it, and different food compounds that can be used in a whole range of different things. We've got this it's called spinifex grass, and that spinifex grass has like a stickiness to it. And they now have that, and it's used in planes and in aerodromes. It's a really it's like a really tough resin, and it's used in that sort of space. It's really
Whoa.
weird. Like we've got so many different products that we can utilize, not just as food, but as other things. So, like wattleseed, for example, is all over Australia. There's round about 1,200 varieties, and 200 are not edible. So
Oh.
those ones, though, are still useful plants. They will make coolamons, axe handles, stone axe handles. They'll make clapsticks.
So what is it?
They
Like what kind of plant is it? Like oh,
It's an acacia. So an acacia is a tall, um, hmm, what we say? It's a heavy timbered tree, but
okay.
it has these little pods that come off it, and the pods have little seeds inside them. Now you must roast those seeds. So when you gather them all, you have to roast it because if you eat them raw, they'll give you kidney stones. So
Oh yeah, we don't want that.
no, we don't want that. So there's always this trick around, how there's are these little secret techniques that are done. So you must roast it. It has a coffee, chocolate, nutty kind of flavour. And then I've had other ones that have a sort of a more of a, oh, more earthy flavour. But generally, the ones that are collected have coffee, chocolate, and nut kind of flavours. We put it onto our butterscotch wattleseed popcorn, which is really yummy. And you
Wow.
can taste that little burst of nutty coffee kind of flavour that comes out of it. Here on the Sunshine Coast, on Gubby Gubby country, we have a thing called a bunya nut, and it's an Arcaria bidwillii. That's its Latin name. So it's a huge tree. Now there are lots of Arcarias across the world. A pine
Okay.
nut is an Arcaria. So the
Oh,
pine
okay.
nut, yeah. So the pine nut and the bunya nut are the only two edible Arcaria trees in the world.
Oh.
And we get this nut, and it comes in a great big cone like that. And then within it, looks a bit like a monkey fruit puzzle, those ones, the fruit, the big monkey puzzle fruit.
No.
And then it's got all these little green things over it. So it's encapsulated in this green. You take it out, and then you get the seed, or we call it just a big old bunya nut. But you get that out, and then you have to cut it open. And when it comes open, it has sort of like a water chestnutty kind of flavour. It's
Oh.
sweet. You can eat it raw. You can boil it up. Traditionally, we used to just throw them in the fire because the shell doesn't ignite. But what
Oh.
happens is that it will steam and roast up the nut inside. And that's one that hasn't been made into a commercial product yet. Still
Okay.
waiting. Yeah. And it's gluten free. So it's a fabulous product. There's so many
Wow.
more people allergic to gluten these days, to wheat. So it's a great product. It's a wonderful industry out there waiting for us to utilize. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. And as you're describing kind of all the very specific things you have to do and all the different varieties, and you can only eat certain amounts, I just like can't help but think about the 65,000 years of just like experimentation that poor people had to go through getting
No.
kidney stones and all that stuff. I mean, just the accumulation of knowledge is so incredible because I feel like knowledge is so available at our fingertips now that I know I certainly can take it for granted. And it's so cool to hear about it and think about that. Like, yeah, as you're talking, I just like, I couldn't help but think about all of that stuff, which is
Yeah, and you're right,
cool.
because Aboriginal Australia was an oral history. We didn't write things down. So that's why these stories that we tell have that history of how you process a bunya nut, what you have to do with a bush tomato to get the wax off. All those things are that connection back to the land, basically. And we've always said that Aboriginal, like, we do not own land, the land owns us, and we are part of that land. And we need to create, I guess, what you and I are doing now and sharing all this information will be recorded for the future. But Aboriginal people used to tell stories and have paintings in caves and things like that. On the Sunshine Coast here, we have a cottonwood tree, and beautiful, beautiful yellow flowers come onto that tree. When we see that, we know that the mullet fish are coming
Mm.
up the river, and that's the time to go get them. Yeah. So
Wow.
we have all these indicators around the place that goes, okay. And then there's another time where that tree changes and the leaves kind of fall off and everything, which means that the spawning season is happening. So don't go fishing for mullet, you know.
Hmm.
All of these wonderful seasonal indicators that we have in the landscape is what really, I guess, made have all these things for these hundreds of thousands of years, because people are looking at it and understanding it and reading the landscape. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's so cool. And what about traditions like ceremonies or festivals like that celebrate food, or but also just in general? Are there some cool Aboriginal
There
ceremonies?
are. Traditionally, back in the day, just here on the Sunshine Coast, talking about that bunya nut there, or the bunya, they would have a festival every 3 years, because every 3 years that plant, because it's a massive tree, gets abundance of fruit and nuts. So people would travel for hundreds of kilometres from the top end of Queensland, even from the other side, Western Australia, Alice Springs, all down to the
Wow.
Sunshine Coast. And that they'd start off a few months beforehand travelling
Yeah,
over.
geez.
We didn't have a plane back then or a car. So they'd all start walking over. So when they got here, there was plenty of food to be gathered. And those festivals, they're still happening today. Auntie Bev Hand has reinvented those, brought them back into modern times where we learn all about bush foods and the culture and the connection to the bunya tree. But that's when the festival happened. People came and they traded, so they would trade things. So sometimes when you're around here,
Mm.
you'll see a boomerang. You'll go, "Oh, I wonder where that boomerang." It's a different wood, or there might be a different ochre, which is a mineral paint. All of these things were traded. Wars, like disputes, were settled. Marriages were arranged.
Wow.
The song lines, we have song lines here. So from one country to another across Australia, different mountains and different parts of the landscape were the connection of the song lines. So it was the path that Aboriginal people took to connect. So yeah, all of these festivals that we have now, I know up in Arnhem Land they do a beautiful weaving workshops up there where all the pandan is all ready for making baskets and things like that. So there's so much connection there. Whenever, I think if people are travelling to Australia, really get involved, do a little bit of research about when these festivals are happening and connect up with those traditional tribal groups and go to those festivals and enjoy the experience.
Yeah, that's so cool. And what a like unique and special thing to experience there.
Yeah.
How would you say that Aboriginal awareness and also traditions and culture fits into the wider Australian culture today?
Sure. Yes, look, there are more and more Aboriginal businesses out there promoting tourism. We love what we do and we love our ancestors and what they've left for us and how we can keep telling the stories of what they've given us and looking after the land and the sea. So there are places all over Australia. You want a different experience. Don't think that you're just going to come and have one experience in Queensland and it's going to be the same as what's in Northern Territory, because it's not. You know,
Yeah,
we
totally.
have different ways of presenting what we do in our culture. On the Sunshine Coast here, about 2 years ago, we set up a festival. It's a market of First Nation marketers, and we call it Gather, GATHAA. So it's a modern term spin on corroboree about getting together, and a place where we can all meet. So we have a festival like that on the second Sunday of the month. And lots of people come and enjoy that. And it's an opportunity for our First Nations entrepreneurs to showcase what they do. That we've got weavers, we've got potters, we've got food makers, dancers, a whole range of different people that do a heap of stuff, arts, and get creative, I guess, with what's in there, what's around in their landscape as well. So yeah, I think when people come to Australia to get out there and go visit things like the cultural centres, the art galleries, be immersed in Aboriginal culture and language, because it is happening. We do have quite a lot of it here, and buy product that is authentic Aboriginal. You know, there are some times you'll see something and you'll go, oh, well, it's got like this on it, dots and beautiful artwork. But is it
So specific
really?
patterns and yeah.
Yeah, is it? Yeah, but is it an Aboriginal business? Because some people don't do that, They'll sort of do Aboriginal design on something, and when you get it back, it's not really authentic. So do buy authentic as much as you can when you're in Australia. And I guess the main thing too is really being respectful of what's an Aboriginal person or an elder or holder. We don't go up taking photos of everybody without asking. When you come to here, you knock on the door and you do the right thing. And that's the same in everyone's country, isn't it? Try to be respectful that you're visiting someone else's land or home and follow that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I was going to ask you for some travel tips for people coming to Australia, but yeah, those were perfect. And I totally agree. Sometimes you just have to state the obvious and being respectful, but it's kind of crazy how sometimes that just escapes people. And it's like, what are you doing? And so, yeah, it definitely never hurts to reiterate stuff like that. That's amazing. And there's one question that I like to ask everybody who comes on the podcast, and that would be, what would your last meal be?
Ooh, oh goodness. I do love fish on the fire. I think fire is really important to our way of life. Connecting there. I loved it. I love mullet. We talked about mullet before. It's one of my favourite foods. So something like that, I think I'd modernise it a little bit with maybe a lemon aspen beurre blanc and have
Ooh.
something quite leery. I do love a good lemon myrtle cheesecake.
Oh,
And we have been doing a lot of, we do the Davidson plum ice cream with in between a wattleseed cookie, which is quite yummy as well.
oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I would go with mullet on the fire. Yeah, is one of my favourite. And you can't go past a good damper, can you? A good bread. So,
Ah.
and we put lots of different herbs and spices in that as well. And yeah, it's really delicious. Nice macadamia butter. I'm hungry
Oh,
now.
yeah, my mouth is watering. Well, Auntie Dale, thank you so much for coming on. Can you tell people where they can find you, where they can find products? I don't know if it's available outside Australia as well or just in Australia, but just more information on how to connect with you, get more information, and learn all the
Sure.
wonderful things that you have to share.
Yeah. Look, the company's called mydillybag.com.au. We've got a website. I have sold into Canada and a couple of places like that, so we can arrange it. But at the moment, it's mainly just set up for Australia. But we have an online store, and if you're ever travelling over here to the Sunshine Coast, do come and see us. Pop in, say hello. We'd love to explore a lot more with you when it comes to Aboriginal culture. We have Instagram, Facebook, all of those social media stuff. And if you go online and you become a subscriber, you get a newsletter every week, and there's always lovely recipes and all sorts of things in there
Ooh.
and you'll learn a little bit more about our staff and our cultural perspective on where we're going for the future. Yep.
Oh, that's amazing. And I'll make sure to link everything as well so people can find it super easily. So thank you again. This has been such a pleasure.
Thanks, Katie. Really enjoyed it.
Thanks again to Auntie Dale. It's such a powerful reminder that food carries memories, identity, and connection. This stuff has been passed down through generations of Aboriginal people. If you'd like to learn more about Auntie Dale's work, visit mydillybag.com.au, where you'll find native Australian products, recipes, and educational resources that celebrate the incredible biodiversity of Aboriginal foodways and Australia. I'm going to link all of the links that she mentioned down in the description. And again, make sure to stop by the Sunshine Coast if you're lucky enough to be in Australia. Do not forget to leave a review, subscribe. It really helps the show reach more curious listeners around the world and share all these amazing, amazing stories. And I'll see you back here in 2 weeks. Bye.